This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
I want to tell you about our newest sponsor, Team Top Cat Sales. Are you looking for team apparel for your high school, your club sports team, or corporation? Look no further than Top Cat Sales, located on the east side of Main Street in downtown Royal Oak, between 11 and 12 Mile. Through founder and former University of Michigan QB John Wangler's leadership, Top Cat Sales has developed a tradition of selling and distributing custom Adidas team apparel with the highest quality and best service. Get your organization, school, or club team all in with Adidas today by going to topcatteamsales.com. That's topcatteamsales.com. Also, follow Top Cat on Twitter at Team Top Cat.
Hey everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
Welcome, Detroit, to another episode on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. You are listening to the DocNJock Sports Podcast. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, my cousin, Adam the Jock Strozinski.
I am Smack Talker Skywalker, and I got a mic saber for a hater.
What's up, cuz? What's going down?
Couple haters. Hey, we got a jam-packed show today. We're going to start this off a little bit different. I know I kind of ambushed you here, and we're going to talk about something very serious right out of the gate. We do have some Lions talk that'll be coming up later on. We've got a Jock Jams. We're going to get into your Tigers, of course, but I want to know if you've been up on the whole Brock Turner, Stanford University thing that has kind of just been, I guess new life has been breathed into this case. This case is over a year old. I'm not sure if you've been following it at all. I really want your opinion here. I've got a lot of information that I kind of want to get into. Having this median that we have, I mean, we started this roughly 3 years ago, basically two dudes. I think at one point we were sharing one mic. We had a laptop that constantly froze up, and we were doing this basically in a cardboard box. And we've now had the luxury to be able to expand a little bit. And because of that, we have a great following out there. And I don't think we would be doing our listeners a damn bit of good if we didn't tackle big issues and hard-pressing issues. And this is a huge issue. As I delved into this whole Brock Turner, University of Stanford rape situation, I got very angry. And after spending the weekend with you, with your two beautiful daughters, I wanted to kind of see where you're at with this and how you would handle something like this and just kind of how you would feel about this. And that being said, I'm going to start off. I'm just going to kind of paint the picture a little bit. I've got 19 pages of information sitting in front of me, and I've read through all of this. I've highlighted a lot of excerpts. So I'm going to give you a rundown. I'm going to paint the picture, and then I'm going to come back to you. And I kind of want to know where you're at with it, how you would feel, especially if this affected you or your daughters, and just kind of, we can just kind of go back and forth about it. Because like I said, as I read and got into this, and the more and more I sunk my teeth into it, the more angry I became, because this woman wasn't just raped one time, wasn't raped twice. She was raped 3 times, all stemming from one issue. It wasn't by 3 different people. It was by the judicial system. It was by her predator. It was by having to go through and relive this traumatic experience over and over and over again. And in the end, there's a giant slap in the face.
Now, before you get into it, I'm glad you're going to paint the picture, because for me, I've heard the name only in the context of people on the radio have kind of said, hey, the NCAA is spending so much time focusing on Jim Harbaugh and the satellite camp. Why aren't they spending some attention on what's been going on at Baylor and with this situation that you brought up? But no, I haven't. I've heard the name. I have not heard significant details about it, so I'm very fascinated to see what you've looked up, and definitely paint the picture for me. What's happened with this story?
All right, so after midnight on January 18th, 2015, Brock Turner, who was a swimmer at the University of Stanford in Palo Alto, California, he was witnessed sexually assaulting an unconscious woman behind a dumpster. Brock Turner was just recently sentenced to 6 months of imprisonment in county jail and probation for 3 felonies resulting to the assault of this woman. Basically, he could have got 14 years, but he's only getting 6 months. This case screams of white privilege, athlete privilege.
So he's sentenced, and the judge gives him 6 months as his punishment?
Yes. So again, white privilege, athlete privilege, and basically, this is just, it's mind-boggling the way that this case ended up playing out, because he was dead to rights. He was guilty. He was so guilty. It was ridiculous. Basically, the judge in California, Aaron Persky, said Turner's lack of a criminal record, his age, and his remorse were all mitigating factors, and that's why he only got 6 months. So what I'm going to do here is, the lady who was preyed upon, her name is not given in the story, but I'm going to read, she wrote 7,000 words in a statement, basically to the court and to Brock Turner, basically recounting everything that she's had to go through. And I pulled excerpts from this because it would be a very long read if I was just to sit here and read it to you full go here. But I've got some really long quotes here, and so just kind of bear with me a little bit. She opens with, "You don't know me, but you've been inside me, and that's why we're here today." She then explains what happened on January 17th, 2015, what kind of led to her and her sister attending a frat party. In her account, she said, "My sister teased me for wearing a beige cardigan to a frat party like a librarian. I called myself Big Mama because I knew I'd be the oldest one there. I made silly faces, let my guard down, and I drank liquor too fast, not factoring in my tolerance had significantly lowered since college. The next thing I remembered, I was on a gurney in a hallway. I had dry blood and bandages on the backs of my hands and elbow. I thought maybe I had fallen." She goes on, "When I was finally allowed to use the restroom, I pulled down the hospital pants they had given me. I went to pull down my underwear and felt nothing. I still remembered the feelings of my hands touching my skin and grabbing nothing. I looked down and there was nothing. The thin piece of fabric, the only thing between my vagina and anything else, was missing, and everything inside me was silent. In order to keep breathing, I thought maybe the policeman used scissors to cut them off for evidence. I then felt pine needles scratching the back of my neck and started pulling them out of my hair. I thought maybe the pine needles had fallen from a tree onto my head. My brain was talking to my gut into not collapsing, but my gut was saying, 'Help me, help me.'" She then continues, "I was asked to sign a paper that said rape victim, and I thought something really happened. My clothes were confiscated, and I stood naked while the nurses held a ruler to various abrasions on my body and photographed them. I had multiple swabs inserted into my vagina and anus, needles for shots, pills, had a Nikon pointed right into my spread legs. I had long pointed beaks inside me and had my vagina smeared with cold blue paint to check for abrasions. After a few hours of this, they let me shower. I stood there examining my body beneath the stream of water and decided, I don't want my body anymore. I was terrified of it. I didn't know what had been in it, if it had been contaminated, who touched it. I was told that after I had been found behind a dumpster, potentially penetrated by a stranger, that I should get retested for HIV because results don't always show up immediately. But for now, I should go home and get back to my normal life. Imagine stepping back into the world with only that information. Could you imagine? You can't put together what just took place the last 6-7 hours of your life. You're forced to sign a paper that says rape victim. You have to take pictures with nurses of your naked body with all these cuts and abrasions and bruises. And they're like, oh, just go home. It's going to be okay. She proceeds, my sister picked me up, face wet from tears and contoured in anguish. Instinctively and immediately, I wanted to take away her pain. I smiled at her. I told her to look at me. I'm right here. I'm okay. Everything's okay. I'm right here. Look at these funny new sweatpants and sweatshirt. I look like a PE teacher. Let's go home. Let's eat something. She did not know that beneath my sweats, I had scratches and bandages on my skin. My vagina was sore and had become a strange dark color from all the prodding. My underwear were missing, and I felt too empty to continue to speak. That I was so afraid that I was also devastated. The day we drove home, and for hours, my sister just held me. Lots of pages.
Man, I'm just reading this now as you're reading this, and man, oh man, 3 counts of felony equals 6 months sentence. Wow, we got to talk about this, man. It's unbelievably devastating news, and the way you're reading this, man, I'm getting very frustrated and agitated with this judge, and I could see why there's outrage out there in California. Wow.
And to top it all off, when I get to the end of this, I'm going to tell you what his dad said in an excerpt, which it just pouring salt on the wound. And it just kind of shows you what kind of cloth Brock Turner comes from. I was not ready to tell my boyfriend or my parents that actually I may have been raped behind a dumpster, but I don't know by who or when or how. If I told them, I would see the fear on their faces and mine would multiply by tenfold. So instead, I pretended the whole thing wasn't real. After work, I would drive to a scheduled place to scream. I didn't talk, I didn't eat, I didn't sleep, I didn't interact with anyone, and I became isolated from the ones I loved most. Now, this is kind of goes into how she found out what happened. Because remember, she just woke up in a hospital and they made her sign some paperwork, they took some pictures, and they sent her on her merry way. So this describes how she found out that she was in fact raped. I was at work scrolling through the news on my phone and I came across an article. In it, I read and learned for the first time about how I was found unconscious, with my hair disheveled, long necklace wrapped around my neck, bra pulled out of my dress pulled off over my shoulders and pulled up above my waist, that I was butt naked all the way down to my boots, legs spread apart, and had been penetrated by a foreign object or by someone I did not know. This was how I learned what happened to me. Sitting at my desk, reading the news at work, I learned what happened to me the same time everybody else in the world learned what happened to me. That's when the pine needles in my hair made sense. That didn't fall from a tree. They had taken off my underwear. His fingers had been inside me. I didn't even know this person. I still don't know this person. I kept reading. In the next paragraph, I read something that I will never forgive. I read that according to him, I liked it. I liked it. Again, I do not have words for this feeling. At the bottom of this article, after I learned about the graphic detail of my own sexual assault, the article listed his swim times. She was found breathing unresponsive with her underwear 6 inches away from her bare stomach curled in the fetal position. By the way, he's a really good swimmer. The night the news came out, I sat my parents down and told them that I had been assaulted. To not look at the news because it's upsetting. Just know that I'm okay. I'm right here. I'm okay. But halfway through telling them, my mom had to hold me because I could no longer stand up. I was not okay. The night after it happened, he said he didn't know my name. Said he wouldn't be able to identify my face in a lineup. Didn't mention any dialogue between us. No words, only dancing and kissing. When the detective asked if he had planned on taking me back to his dorm, he said no. When the detective asked how we ended up behind the dumpster, he said he didn't know. He admitted to kissing other girls at the party, one of whom was my sister, who pushed him away. He admitted to wanting to hook up with someone. I was the wounded antelope of the herd, completely alone and vulnerable, physically unable to fend for herself, and he chose me. Sometimes I think if I hadn't gone, this never would have happened. But then I realized it would have happened, just to somebody else. Probably the most damning statement in this whole thing. And there's a ton of them. I learned that my ass and vagina were completely exposed outside. My breasts had been groped. Fingers had been jabbed inside me. Along with pine needles and debris, my bare skin, my head had been rubbing against the ground behind the dumpster, while an erect freshman was humping my half-naked, unconscious body. I was not only told that I was assaulted, I was told because I could not remember, I technically could not prove it was unwanted, which is, are you serious right now? And that disordered me, damaged me, almost broke me. It's the saddest type of confusion to be told I was assaulted and nearly raped blatantly out in the open, but we don't know if it counts as assault yet. She proceeds to discuss the trial and things that went on during the trial. I was pummeled with narrow-pointed questions that dissected my personal life, love life, past life, family life, insane questions, accumulating trivial details to try and find an excuse for this guy who didn't even take the time to ask me for my name, who had me naked a handful of minutes after seeing me. After a physical assault, I was assaulted with questions designed to attack me, to say, see, her facts don't line up. She's out of her mind. She's practically an alcoholic. She probably wanted to hook up. He's like an athlete, right? They're both drunk. Whatever. The hospital stuff she remembered is after the fact. Why take that into account? Brock has a lot at stake here. So he's having a really hard time right now. It becomes all about the perpetrator and less about the victim. And then it came time for him to testify. This is where I became re-victimized. 1 year later, as predicted, a new dialogue emerged. Brock had a strange news story. Almost sounded like a poorly written young adult novel with kissing and dancing and hand-holding and lovingly tumbling onto the ground. And most importantly, in his new story, there was suddenly consent. 1 year after the incident, he remembered, oh yeah, by the way, she actually said yes to everything. So, According to him, the only reason we were on the ground was because I fell down. Note, if a girl falls, help her get back up. If she's too drunk to even walk and falls, do not mount her, hump her, take off her underwear, and insert your hands into her vagina. If a girl falls, help her up. If she's wearing a cardigan over her dress, don't take it off so you can touch her breast. Maybe she's cold. Maybe that's why she wore the cardigan. If her bare ass and legs are rubbing the pine cones and needles while the weight of you pushes into her, get off her. She continued, next in the story, 2 people approached you. You ran because you said you felt scared. I argued that you were scared because you'd be caught, not because you were scared of 2 terrifying Swedish grad students. When they tackled you, why didn't you say, stop, everything's okay, go ask her. She's right over there. She'll tell you. When the policeman arrived and interviewed the evil Swedes who tackled you, he was crying so hard he couldn't speak because of what he'd just seen. If you really didn't think they were dangerous, you just abandoned a half-naked girl to run and save yourself? She goes on to basically just tear apart his defense and his so-so apology, which was really disconcerting. It just goes to show and paint his character and just kind of lays out what an awful, awful, horrible person Brock Turner is. Lastly, you said, I wanted to show people that one night of drinking can ruin a life. A, as in one. Ruin a life. One life. Yours. Forgot about mine. Let me rephrase for you. I want to show people that one night of drinking can ruin two lives. You and me. You are the cause. I am the effect. You have dragged me through this hell with you. Dipped me back into that night again and again. You knocked down both our towers. I collapsed at the same time you did. Your damage was concrete, stripped of titles, degrees, enrollment. My damage was internal, unseen. I carry it with me. You took away my worth, my privacy, my energy, my time, my safety, my intimacy, my confidence, my own voice, until today. She then proceeds, I can't sleep alone at night without having a light on, like a 5-year-old, because I have nightmares of being touched where I cannot wake up. I did this one thing where I waited until the sun came up, and I felt safe enough to sleep. For 3 months, I went to bed at 6 o'clock in the morning. You have no idea how hard I have worked to rebuild parts of me that are still weak. It took me 8 months to even talk about what happened. I could no longer connect with friends, with everyone around me. I would scream at my boyfriend, my own family, whenever they brought this up. She goes on to basically state with the sentencing and how that played out. I told the probation officer I do not want Brock to rot away in prison. I did not say he does not deserve to be behind bars. The probation officer recommended a year or less in county jail as a soft timeout, a mockery of this seriousness of his assault and the consequences of the pain I have been forced to endure. And she basically goes on to just kind of talk about how the judicial system screwed this entire thing up. This woman was raped not only by Brock Turner, she was raped by his attorneys who basically sat there and tried to discredit her and brought things up that were totally unrelated in a way to protect their client. And then she was raped again by this judge who sentenced Brock Turner to 6 months in jail. This is awful. This is atrocious. You have 2 daughters, both very young. We've got some time before they're headed off to college. We've got some time before they even think about drinking. This happens every single day on a college campus. Happens all the time. This happened over a year ago. And the only reason it's getting talked about right now is because BuzzFeed found the letter that she wrote, that she posted, and now it's gone viral.
And then you said, and I just read what that father's letter was, 20 minutes of action, so my son should be spared. Are you kidding me right now?
That's
no contrition.
The worst part. That shows you what kind of family structure he comes from. The dad says this is a steep price to pay for 20 minutes of action of his 20 plus years of life. Your son just violated another human being.
It's a terrible story all around. It's just all terrible from what happened.
You just ruined her.
Yeah, it's a tough thing. And then another part that, hits home to me is that day to day, that I'm a psychologist. And part of my training that I did when I first started working in the field was to get trauma training. It was something that I did a specialized program in. My first employer thought that I was somebody that had the tools needed to kind of go through it. So I am, if you look out on the window there, part of my credentials says CTS. So I am a certified trauma specialist. And so the first 5 years of work that I did was all about, near-death situations, trauma, sexual assaults, things like that. So I've listened to hours and hours upon tough situations and experiences of adults, children that have dealt with tough situations. And the thing that you really hurt for as a person on the inside is the loss of innocence and the loss of control when someone violates you. In the work that I did, it's something that, you hope that she gets extensive support and trauma help, and that she really starts the process of moving away from feeling like a victim and feeling like a survivor with her team, with her family. This is the result of what trauma will do to you. Her life for the next foreseeable future is going to be very challenging, but she does have the chance to recover with extensive help. What failed her is the judicial system, and one that has been argued for years that needs to be modified. A judge in this case has the right and great discretion to punish him that little. When you look at the judicial system, a lot of people argue that it's one of the best systems in the world, yet flawed. But this is one big glaring flaw in that these judges should not have this level of discretion in terms of, hey, if you're convicted of a felony sexual assault, you can't have the right to sentence someone to 6 months. That just should not be the case. And if it is, then he should have a situation where 8, 9 other people can come in, immediately look at it, immediately start an investigation and overturn it and revisit it and really start the process of rehabilitating both Turner and this young woman. It's a situation where, yeah, she's been failed. I'm hoping that the pressure that this judge faces from the community will result in some actions taken against him. At least sit him down in a room and be like, what on earth would lead you to punish someone like this for 6 months? It's happened before. This is the sad part is I'm feeling for the young lady, going through this tough thing. I know the extensive hurt she's feeling, and the tough part is that you don't sleep at night well knowing that this could happen again.
The 2 Swedish gentlemen who ended up saving her were basically riding bikes, and they noticed that Brock Turner was basically humping some inanimate object that couldn't move. That's why they sat there and they chased him down. She now sleeps at night, staring up at her ceiling with 2 bicycles on her ceiling above her bed. So she goes to sleep at night thinking that there are heroes out there who can help because they saved her. She has yet to even meet these people. I mean, just the irreparable damage that he has done. She's got to carry this now with her for the rest of her life. This doesn't just affect this small portion of her lifetime. This affects every relationship she will ever have going forward. And this guy has to go spend 6 months. If this was random black guy from Detroit going to Wayne County Community College, does he get 6 months? Does he get benefit of the doubt? I tell you no. I'll tell you hell no. That guy's going to serve almost 10 years. He's going to be locked away. This guy, because he's a good swimmer, he's a white kid, and he goes to a prestigious university, he gets a free pass. That's what this is. This is a free pass. This is atrocious. The judicial system has failed her. These defense attorneys are just as awful and scummy as Brock Turner is. Brock Turner's father is a joke. That guy, I'd like to meet him in a parking lot. Honestly, I would. I really would. You know what I'm saying? It's just bad all the way around. And in the end, she was screwed numerous times.
I'm hoping that the community pressure will be strong enough to cause the people that, oversee him in his work to really take some action and really look at why on earth is the system built this way where a judge has that much discretion. It's not, he was convicted. 3 felonies. That does not equate to 6 months. And I'm almost certain that as this goes on, there will be additional punishments. There will be additional pressures. It has to be. You cannot let it stand this way. And you hope that she does get justice. That's all you want from the justice system is if there are mistakes made, that there is a little bit of oversight and there is somebody to look at what's going on and to really change when there are grievances this bad. And the sad part is it's happened before. You've heard of situations where you have a criminal and they sentence them to treatment. They don't give them that much of time at all. So the judicial system has to be looked at and revised. And this is a story that's really devastating all the way around. And like you said, I have 2 daughters. It is very scary.
Does this scare you?
Yeah, of course.
Does this make you extremely concerned for your daughters? I mean,
I'm concerned.
I don't have a child. I'm not yet to be blessed with a child. All right, but I've got a sister who I care for very deeply, and I couldn't imagine if anything awful like this happened to her. There'd be no way. I would lose my mind.
Yeah, exactly. So all you do is hope and pray. They say if you're a religious type that you can't really pray and worry at the same time. So I'm of the opinion, just pray every single day that nothing terrible happens, and you just do the absolute best to find yourself preventing it as much as possible. And if something terrible is to happen, that she knows that she's got the kids will have support and a way to day-to-day try your absolute best to get over this and live with it in the best case scenario possible. You just feel for this girl, and it's deeply saddening to hear this kind of stuff. And to hear, the big thing in our field is the debate between punishment and rehabilitation. I wish there was a healthy blend of both where he could be punished for several years, at least 6 to 10 years minimum. At the same time, blend treatment in these places, because I know people go to jail and they quote unquote get help, but I'm not sure exactly as to what level of help they get. In terms of, because I've never really ever been in a prison situation and seen what therapists do there. But I just wish that there was a healthy blend of rehabilitation and punishment. But in this case, he's got to be locked up, and whatever kind of services he should or should not be entitled to should happen in the confines of a 6x6 cell. No doubt about it. This judge, see, look, I don't get, as a judge, you read that to me, and I'm getting like hot, flush-faced. I'm getting nervous. I'm getting pissed. I'm like cussing in my own mind. And I'm like, you sit there as a judge. How do you sit there, read that letter, sit there, read the accounts from the witnesses? How do you sit there and flip through your folders, come up with a contemplation, even if you just spoke to one person? You speak to an advisor, a close friend. You speak to, whoever you trust. You tell them, I'm thinking 6 months. If the people that advise you, their eyes don't bug out, who's advising you? A bunch of cigar-smoking, scotch-drinking fellas that just are like, yeah, 6 months, he'll be good. Otherwise, you might start looking at some improprieties. Otherwise, because as a good, as a person that I believe I have a conscience, I might be thinking, look at this guy's bank accounts. Look at this guy's funds. Potentially, did he receive a payout? Because as a human, I can't imagine giving 6 months is the right human thing to do. Now, does he have, I'm only speculating, if he has ulterior motives, maybe a large settlement or a large payment that may come to a friend of his that may find his way, then maybe that could, that's not out of the realm of possibility. And if that's the case, if it's not out of the realm of my possibility of thinking, you have a problem. 6 months is not acceptable, and that's just the way it is. And you just hope that in the end that this young lady gets help and day by day continues to get quality services to help her lead the quality life that hopefully she can lead after this. That's all I can say.
It's a devastating story. It just, the one thing that we have here in America, and the one thing that you're led to believe as a child, is that if something bad happens to you, you can always count on the court system to help figure it out and to try to sit there and right a wrong. And Brock Turner is so wrong, so very wrong, and nothing is right about this entire situation. It's absolutely brutal. Now, how do I transition into Tiger talk from this? Something that's going right. Your Tigers, they're winning. How's that? Is that captain of the segue there?
To segue into a movie that is one of my all-time favorites, downloaded on my phone. Just as I thought I was out, they pull me back in. The Tigers, I thought I'd written them off.
Godfather 3, huh?
It's not the best one,
no,
but
it's probably the worst one. There's that whole incestual thing that goes on with it.
Yeah, it's not the best, but
Godfather 1 and 2, exceptional movies. Great movies.
I have all three on the phone. You still peek in from time to time. I know 3 is the worst, but still a decent movie from time to time if you have time to kill. But are you kind of pulled back in? There are a lot of great storylines to look at. I know we've railed on the weaknesses that they've exhibited, but right now they're playing a good brand of baseball, and I'm not all the way back on the bandwagon where I think they're going to have ultimate success, but hey, they are providing good news, good thoughts, good vibes. And when you come off of a game like the game on Tuesday where you're down 2-0, Sanchez from Toronto was just dealing. He had a nasty curveball. He was going mano a mano with our big dogs. And there was a situation where Victor Martinez would just go up there, 3 straight pitches, strike out. Next time around, 3 straight pitches, strike out. This young kid Sanchez was dominant. It was nice to see. And I give credit where credit's due. He was dealing, and it was nice to see that the Tigers were resilient and they were able to come back on Tuesday in extra innings. Kinsler helped in the 9th, and he definitely helped in the 10th. So good stuff all around.
Since you're in that kind giving mood, are you going to give any credit to manager Brad Ausmus for any of these wins or no?
Do I give him credit? I am definitely giving him credit for a little bit of the resurgence of Upton. I believe that he's done his best to try to shift him in the lineup, kept him in there, taking him out when he's felt like he's needed a rest, and now he's back. That 3-0 count in that game, was it versus the White Sox on Sunday?
3-1 count, yep.
Yep. Let him go, give him the go sign, boom. He gets a key hit, revitalized him a little bit, gets him feeling the good positive vibes with his teammates. But other situations, even in games that they're winning, you're seeing situations that are a little bit concerning, like, taking out Miggy and pinch hitting him. I'm always of the opinion, if you got one of the best hitters in the world, you never take him out. You got a guy like Andrew Romine, and you slot him second when you could potentially put Iglesias there. So some of the situations can be debated, but hey, better to debate when you're winning than when you're losing. So I give him credit for keeping the team together, keeping an even keel. But remember, they're only 2 games above 500, and they're playing not the best competition. Toronto comes in hot. You got to give him credit for winning the series versus Toronto. I give him credit for sure.
If you look at some of the pitchers that they have faced, though, They have faced a guy like Quintana. They have faced Chris Sale. I mean, those two guys are dominant. And then you face an Ron Sanchez, who is a dominant pitcher as well. I think that guy going into that game had like a sub 2.5 ERA. So, I mean, those are three incredible pitchers that you as a Tiger fan would gladly take on your team. And the Tigers rolled them. Well, maybe didn't roll Sanchez, but that was a wonderful game that they sat there and were able to come back from. So I think you do have to give some credit to Brad Ausmus, but I think now you're seeing the resurgence of these guys. The players are coming around. They're starting to play. They're finding their groove. You got a young talent with a guy like Michael Fulmer, who just looks unbelievable right now. Justin Upton, you're right. The resurgence, it looks like, there's always that correction in baseball. It's a weird sport like that. You give him time, give him enough time, things are going to fix themselves. He has fixed his swing. He's getting some timely hits. He's doing a good job on the base path, and he's not becoming a huge liability in the field. So you're seeing that correction right now. Ian Kinsler's playing out of his mind right now. That was a guy me and you have talked about possibly trading away to get some pieces. He is making a clear-cut statement that if you do want him, you are going to trade him, you might be able to get something more for him because he is playing exceptionally well. So clutch as of late, it's unbelievable. I love this resurgence of this team. Right now, they're competing for second place in the AL Central. It seems like every week when we get down to do this podcast, it's like they're just moving up the list here. And I'm telling you, give them another week or two. I guarantee you that they'll be challenging and they'll be going on for that first place in the AL Central. I do believe that they're going to make the playoffs, and I do believe they're going to win the AL Central. I think it's going to be behind an arm of a young kid like Michael Fulmer and some veteran leadership from a guy like a Justin Verlander and a Jordan Zimmerman, and you're going to have the timely hitting of a Justin Upton. You're going to have Miguel Cabrera doing what Mickey does, and you're going to have Victor Martinez, who's like 100 years old, and honestly, he moves around the bases like he's 100 years old, but the guy is hitting 350 right now. It's insane. It's absolutely insane the way this team's starting to kind of come together and gel a little bit.
Is Michael Fulmer a really a driving force in terms of the excitement? You got a young rookie who's really doing some great things. What is it, like 22 innings now without giving up a run? He's going up there and really gives you a chance to win each and every game. He's been dominant. We like to see that, and it's a nice transition from Verlander to Fulmer now. And a lot of people are saying, listen, we got a guy from the Mets. He's not from our system. The Mets are a squad and an organization that know pitchers. A lot of people are saying, okay, I might be willing to buy into this Michael Fulmer. I'm of the opinion, I'm getting excited. I'm definitely tuning in each and every start that he's showing up to because of the fact that he might be box office. But you got to remember, there are some things that you have to temper a little bit. It's his first go-around through the league. We've seen it before, and we've seen it in Detroit. A lot of people will point to Mark the Bird Fidrich, who was just awesome that rookie season, and then he had arm trouble. So I'm of the opinion, don't go full force, don't go all the way to fifth gear with Michael Fulmer, but he's already moved out of first gear, and I would say he's firmly into third gear because he's what now 6-1. His stats are outstanding, and it's an exciting story. I'm of the opinion that hey, if you got a piece that can be an ace in the future, you better tune in and really appreciate what we're watching.
Over his last 4 games, he's pitched 28 in the third innings, and he's only given up 1 run. That's exceptional baseball right now.
Pump the brakes or go to fifth gear.
That's outstanding.
What do you think with Fulmer?
Can I go to fourth gear? I'm not ready. I'm not ready to go into overdrive with him because, again, like you said, he's a young talent. He's a rookie, and you're right. We've seen this before. We've seen rookies come out, and we've seen them wheel and deal, and then they go back through the major league system, and they play teams for a second time. They get beat up a little bit. The one good thing you can say about Fulmer is it really does look like he has command of all of his pitches, and he does a really good job placing them. I like what they have here. I'm not ready to say that he's going to be the future ace of this staff, but I like what he is right now. I love him as your third option in this starting rotation. Honestly, I think we all thought Daniel Norris was going to be that guy who was going to take that next step forward, and it's been a pleasant surprise to see Michael Fulmer do it. Daniel Norris may come up, and he may end up doing that, but right now you got to ride Michael Fulmer. I think he has been incredible right now, and I think the slotting in of Shane Green in the bullpen, he's coming along very nicely. I think he helps steady that bullpen a little bit, gives you a guy who can pitch you some long relief if you need it. If you need him to come out and do some spot duty, he's been well suited at that. So I like the way this team is starting to kind of round out. I think what you're seeing right now with this baseball team is more accurate of what they are than what they were when they were losing, 12 of 14, 11 of 13, whatever that streak was. I think what you're seeing right now is more of what this team is going to be. Yes, they have to hit home runs. They absolutely have to, and that's going to help them win games. But they showed you the other night that they can get guys on base, they can get runs home, and they can win a difficult game. That was something that we didn't really see a whole lot of last year. Like going into Tuesday night's game, if this was last year, this would have been a game where they just folded. But they dug deep, they won, they went into extra innings, and they did the little things. They put guys on base, they moved runners around. Miguel Cabrera did get taken out, and they did put Maben in, but even that move didn't come back to hurt them at all. They were able to sit there and get runs home. They laid down some bunts, got guys, moved around the base path, and next thing you know, Justin Upton's trotting home on a Kinsler single in the top of the 10th or bottom of the 10th. It was, they're rounding into form, and I do believe that they're going to be extremely competitive for this AL Central. And this is going to be a very tight race. I mean, look at the top 4 teams in this division. I think they're only separated by like 3 games. Chicago got out to a white-hot start. Kansas City's still a very good team. Cleveland, I think, is probably the biggest surprise, maybe to both you and I. The fact that they're holding down first place in the AL Central right now. But I don't believe that they're a first-place team. I'm not sure where you stand on that, but I just don't believe that they're the cream of the crop in the AL Central. And, I think the Tigers are right there with all 4 of these teams, and I think they can beat every single one of these teams.
Yeah, I threw on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast, why have the Detroit Tigers been successful as of late? Let us know. Layden Johnson chimes in, Maben came back, we've been winning. Hashtag my opinion. So we've been probably discounting the really strong impact of Cameron Maben, what he's been doing. Hitting above 400, been a guy that, look at who he replaced. Ghost. You remember who that guy is?
He's a ghost down in Toledo right now.
Relegated now to designated hitter. He's awful. And so you significantly upgrade at that position. You put in Cameron Maben, and we all said Ghost is a guy that's under a 250 hitter career-wise. You like his speed, but you can't utilize that speed if you're not getting on base. What's Cameron Maben been doing? Clutch hits, rally guy that's getting on base at a super high clip. Is he going to sustain it? Not at this clip, but hell, this is a guy that's on base, and when you got a guy on base, then you can allow guys like, Miggy, JD to come up there, Nick C, Ian. The more guys on base, the more chances for RBIs. And Cameron Maben is a guy that's been inserted into that lineup and has been such a strong force. We got to stand here and applaud him because, like you said, I don't know why you want to trade him. I want to trade the big dogs. You want to trade the little dogs that aren't making all that much money. You want to trade the guy, the force, Cameron Maben. You could argue that.
I don't want to trade anybody.
No, I know. I stuck it to you, and you went with Cameron Maben. But Layden makes a great point. Cameron Maben's impact is unbelievable.
Absolutely. You know what? There's a lot to be said about teams and finding a guy that just fits. Having a good locker room, a guy who kind of lightens everything up, doesn't necessarily take things too serious, but has a way to be a professional about it, go out there and yet have a good time and make sure everybody else is having a good time. You wouldn't believe what that does to a locker room, what that does to a clubhouse. And I think that's kind of what Cameron Maben brings to this team right now. He just kind of lightens that load a little bit, make sure everybody's having a good time, and he's out there enjoying himself. You can see it when he sits there and he runs the bases. I mean, the guy is always smiling. He's always looking back to the dugout, doing different things, like he's eating the porridge, stirring the mix, doing his little things, you know what I'm saying? And on top of it, he's not a huge detriment in the outfield, something that Anthony Ghost was. Anthony Ghost was brutal in the outfield, absolutely atrocious. So you now put in a guy like Cameron Maben. He's a little bit more of a plus defender. On top of that, look, he's not going to hit at a 400 clip. It's just not going to happen. Not going to happen all season. I'm expecting there to be the 200 swoon. You just got to be prepared for it. And right now, ride that hot streak, though. And he's been an exceptional player for this team.
Now, we can debate whether the Tigers waited too long to make moves, moving guys to the bullpen. But all you got to say is another contributing factor as to why the Tigers are having success. Anibal Sanchez was moved to the bullpen literally the same day we were calling for it last week's podcast. They made the move. And if you look at the stats, games where he's not pitched, they've had success. And so he wasn't giving you a chance to win game in, game out. You move him to the bullpen, what do you know? He goes balls to the wall in his first couple appearances back, and he's getting outs. He can build some confidence. I just hope that the thesis is not get his confidence to put him back as a starter. His role, I know it's tough. It's, putting him back in the starting rotation is going to be dictated by the fact that he's making $16 million. I don't know too many $16 million relievers, but listen, think outside the box. If he's getting outs, going up there, getting 1, 2, 3 innings, making it easy to get to K-Rod, hey, him, Green, the Wilsons, now you're potentially starting to see the bullpen that we maybe thought that they could be at the beginning of the year. Good move to put Sanchez in there. He doesn't belong. It's just he's the odd man out. Boyd's gotten steadily better. Maybe you move Green back. Maybe Daniel Norris can be a guy who's starting to kind of pick it up in the minors, starting to strike out guys at a 1 per inning rate. So he struggled his early stint in the minors, but he obviously, remember, this is a guy that's had some serious health problems and some time off of baseball, and he's a little bit of an interesting cat. So it might just take him a little bit more time to season down in the minors, get more tutelage, and when he comes back, I would not be too devastated with a rotation of Zimmerman, Verlander, Fulmer, Boyd, Norris. It might not get you all the way to the promised land. It could do some damage should Fulmer, Boyd, Norris. I know it's tough to go 3/5 with young guys, but it's happened before.
There's a reason why you traded for him. So let them play. And you're absolutely right.
The realistic scenario is probably Green. If he can, work out his health issues and keep the blisters down, this is a guy that can throw the ball, and I think he's probably the leader in the clubhouse to get back to the 5th spot. Probably it's going to be looked at as Shane Green.
Yeah, you know what? If there was one guy I would put in my 5th spot, it probably would be Shane Green. The interesting thing is you now have this little bit of a logjam with your pitching staff. You've got a guy like Justin Verlander, you got a Jordan Zimmerman, you got a Michael Fulmer, and I think for sure there's your top 3. And I don't think you're going to run away from that. Now what you have is you got a Daniel Norris, you've got a Shane Green, you've got a Matt Boyd, and you got a Pelfrey. So you basically have 2 spots with 4 guys. And I think this is a great spot. If you're a Detroit Tiger fan, and if you're the Detroit Tigers organization, this is a great spot to be in. You've got a ton of pitching depth now. And if you have to move a couple of these guys to your bullpen, do it. Go ahead. There's nothing wrong with being a starting caliber pitcher and having to come out of the bullpen. You give a guy like a Matt Boyd who has struggled to go 6 innings, and basically every appearance that he's been in thus far this season, a great time for a long reliever, a guy to come out, maybe give you 2, give you 3 innings. That's perfect for Anibal Sanchez. You don't want him going that long into games. So it works out perfect. Same thing with a guy like a Pelfrey. A change of pace pitcher. Bring him in, let him do it.
Listen, the starting pitchers are really, something that when you look at it, they provided some relief now in that they're getting innings. When the Tigers struggled, the starters couldn't come back, and they would give up early runs and not give the team a strong chance to win. So now you've got Zimmerman, maybe a rejuvenated Justin Verlander for whatever reason, and you got a situation where you're looking at the Tigers starters and go, okay, it's workable. Zimmerman, Verlander, Fulmer, if he keeps it up, now you got 3/5. Now you just got to focus on 2 other things, and maybe you got a situation that can be of help. Detroit Sports Podcast, who we got on the line?
Yeah, I saw on Twitter you guys were discussing why you guys think the Tigers are on such a hot streak right now. I'd like to give my opinion. The offense, since we got Maben back in the lineup, it looks a lot more energetic. Every game I've watched without Maben in the lineup, the offense just isn't there. It looks lackluster. And like the gentleman just said a little bit ago, the pitching. We have a lot of good pitching depth right now. Right now, I think the top 3, like you said, Verlander's shown people he's coming around this year. There's a lot of doubters. Zimmerman, I think we got more than we expected. And who's that other guy? Really good. Fulmer. I believe he's going to be the top of our rotation for a long time to come. First 3 outings, he's been dominant, to say the least.
Kyle, who do you think fills out the rest of this rotation here? You think it's going to be Daniel Norris? You think he's got a shot to sit there and come up and make some waves?
Yeah, I would like to see Norris come up and either fill the 4 or 5 spot rotation. And I would say with 5, if Matt Boyd can become more consistent, Detroit's got their future rotation set. If we could get Green going, coming around, we have some young pitching depth that's going to lead this team.
Now, Kyle,
former.
Now, Kyle, how are you sitting with Brad Ausmus? Now the Tigers are on an upswing. Do you feel like his seat's cooled down? Do you still want him to be your manager of your ball club?
At the end of last year, actually, when we first hired him, I wasn't a big fan. His first year, I thought he was all right. Last year, I didn't want him so much. Beginning of this year, the team was inconsistent, and I was like, give the guy a break. It's not his fault the team's not hitting or we're not pitching. But I don't really know. I don't have a full opinion on him. But when I read the Detroit stuff and like on Facebook when people comment, there's some good opinions about his decision making, which is not the best at times, to say the least.
Thanks for dialing us up. We appreciate your support.
No problem.
Very interesting. See, I do believe there's a lot of fans out there that still support the cause and that still want the Tigers to be successful. And look, the Tigers were in a situation where they upset everybody with how they were playing. They weren't reaching their potential. And now if you just give them a little bit, look at you. You're already you're swinging all the way back to the other side. You're like, I think they're going to win the Central. I'm like, hey.
I've always thought that they were going to win the Central. I was sitting there trying to calm you down.
I will win the Central?
What? Dude.
How do you
this is going to be a very tight and very hard contested match all the way through the season. I expect this to go right down to the wire. I'm talking the very final week of the season. I could see them maybe winning a game here or there that kind of sways this, and they'll probably only win the Central by a half a game, maybe a complete game. It's going to be tight. This is going to be a extremely difficult matchup. Like we said, 4 out of the 5 teams in this division all can make a bid for being the number 1 team in it. I mean, you've seen what the Chicago White Sox could do. You've got the defending World Series champions in this division. I don't believe in Cleveland, but they're making waves right now. They have a very good manager in Terry Francona, a guy who has done it before. They also have a good enough pitching staff where they can sit there and kind of work some things around. I don't think that they have the overall lineup to sit there and win the division, but stranger things have happened. Now you've got the Detroit Tigers, who I believe are starting to figure things out. You know, we've already established who their top 3 are. We just named 4 guys who could sit there and legitimately be your 4th and your 5th starter. I mean, 4 guys to fill out 2 spots. You're in a great spot right now. The rest of those guys can go to your bullpen and help out. And the biggest issue with this team over the last couple of years has been the health of the pitching staff, trying to get that figured out because Anibal Sanchez is always hurt. Justin Verlander, the last 2 seasons, has been injured, and he's your ace of your ball club, right? And Anibal Sanchez was a guy who we said going on into the season, he has to be healthy and he has to contribute. Well, if he's going to contribute and come out of the bullpen, I'm okay with that as long as Michael Fulmer goes out there and gives you a quality start. I'm cool with it. So now you've secured your pitching rotation and you secured your bullpen. You've got bats up and down this lineup. I mean, we talk about the top 6 guys in this starting lineup here. It's unbelievable. JD Martinez can go on any other team and he'd basically be your 3rd or your 4th hitter. Here he's hitting 5th. Victor Martinez, for being 107 years old and needing a walker to get around the bases, still goes out there and hits the damn ball hard as hell, and he's hitting at a 350 clip. Miguel Cabrera, best hitter in the game right now. Who's better than him? You want to say David Ortiz? I'm going to tell you you're wrong. There's nobody who's hitting a ball better than Miguel Cabrera right now. You know, and if you can get Justin Upton to figure it out a little bit more, I'm telling you, there's a correction coming. He's going to be okay. And Ian Kinsler's been outstanding.
Listen, I think it's good for us just to focus series by series. You won versus Toronto. Now you have a test. You have a situation where you're going on the road to New York, a team that's above average. They just came into your house and won a game. So now you got a series versus them. Go out there and handle your business. Play the same way, and let's see where it shakes out. I think by next week, we'll still be around 500 to 1 or 2 games above. And I really believe now the talk is going to be, what's the next piece that they can add to this squad? How can they get creative with this staff and organization? Who can they give up? Maybe a guy in the minors. Who can they maybe bring up to also continue to light a spark under this team? This team is okay. There are holes to fill, but it's not capsizing the boat. And as long as you got a little bit more support, you know, I think that the fans are ready and willing. Look at how hard they've been cheering this squad, even though they're at 500. So I'm of the opinion, keep playing this way, keep building that momentum, and if you can just get to August within 5 games, you have a chance at that trade deadline, make some miracle moves, and we can be excited. We railed on them. Now we've had a chance to talk positively about them. I'm very excited to keep peeking in. They've got my attention. I'm still watching. I'm still on the bandwagon. I'm not going to swing like you to AL Central winners. I'd say they need to make 1 or 2 moves. That's all.
There's been no swing. I've been on board, and I thought they were going to win
AL
the
Central winners.
I thought they were going to win the Central from the get-go. I said going into, well, actually, no. I said that they'd probably be a wild card team. But looking at the way that this is all shaking out and how tight it's been, they're going to have to win the Central in order to get into the playoffs. And I believe that they have enough gusto, and I believe that they can. You're right. Coming up, going on the road, this is going to be a big test. They have struggled on the road this season. They've not been very good. If I can get my computer to work here, I could give you a stat, but I can't get my computer to work right now. It wants to be difficult.
Too much positivity that your computer's like, what? This is like, we're used to accepting why the Tigers suck. Terrible stats. Fire Brad Ausmus. They're like, positive Tiger stats. No input. We don't know what that is.
It's like, oh, you're too happy. What's going on?
All right, stay with us. We'll take a quick timeout, regroup, refresh, come back with a round of Jock Jams that will be sure to impress. Doc and Jock, episode 148, Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Doc and Jock here for Fanatic U. If you're looking for some sweet sports swag and you love your Detroit teams, and I mean you really love your Detroit teams, you got to check out fanaticu.com and get the coolest gear out there and rock your Red Wing shirt, rock your Lions shirt, rock your Piston apparel. Wear it till the wheels fall off. Michigan State, you know what? They got it too. Check out Fanatic U. They have 6 locations all over Metro Detroit. Check them out, fanaticu.com.
Yeah, we coming now. Come on. Yeah, that's right. We put it down. It's like a family in here, just a little disabled. Putting it down, we lay them out on the table. Yeah. Who's in the house? The brothers in the house. Gotta turn it on out, let you know what we about. Kinda like Cain and Abel, a bit unstable. Don't be breaking the brain, break the whole damn table.
Welcome back to the longest running weekly episodic Detroit Sports Podcast, episode 148, coming strong, bringing the noise each and every Thursday since September 2013, making waves. You know, we're available on every platform of social media. Love it. Get a chance to have fun on Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, doing the Facebook Live. Trendsetters. We started doing Facebook Live. Others start doing Facebook Live. Hey, we're at least 1 step ahead of the game, and I'm always appreciative of that. The reason why I love doing this podcast, uncensored, we get a chance to have our own segments, do whatever we got to do, and this is one of my favorite segments of the week, what we call Jock Jams. Yes, sir, cuz. So as of this recording, the Golden State Warriors are up 2-0 in a series that a lot of people are talking like, can it even be competitive? Is Cleveland going to show up? Who's to blame for Cleveland's collapse? Is Kevin Love even going to be on this squad next season as a result of this abysmal play? What have been your thoughts so far, first couple games, and who do you think might shake out to be the MVP of the NBA Finals?
This series is over. It is all done.
Why?
Because the Cavaliers have waved the white flag. The Fighting LeBrons, dude, game 2, they didn't want none. Absolutely. Can I get an AJ Styles bump here? You don't want none. Cavs wanted absolutely nothing to do with Golden State. Nothing. Kyrie Irving couldn't defend a wet paper bag. He couldn't defend that Dirt Devil vacuum that you got in the corner over there. Honestly, Kyrie Irving's bum on defense. LeBron can't carry this entire team. He needs some help. Kevin Love, concussion, not 100% sure if he's going to play or not. And when he does play, he's not knocking down shots right now. Everybody talks about how Golden State doesn't defend well and they don't do this, they don't do that. They are an above average defensive team, and they have frustrated the Cavaliers since day one. On top of that, they have the ability to sit there and get hot and go on streaks. They could be losing by 9 points in a blink of an eye. Next thing you know, they're up by 10. It's just their ability to hit big shots at key moments. And talking about their defense, a lot of that is predicated by Draymond Green. Day-Day is a monster down low. On top of that, he is one of those pieces that are so valuable because he can do so many different things. He can sit there and he can defend. He can start your fast break, pass the ball up. He can sit there, run up the floor behind everybody else, get that dish, and he's a big man who can hit a three. And he's showing time and time again how valuable he is on this team. The other day, he sat there, he hit 5 3-pointers. He was sitting there filling out the paperwork to become a Splash Brother. It's unbelievable. He will be the MVP of this series. And this series is probably going to go 5 games. I'll let the Cavs win 1 in Cleveland, and then Golden State's going to come back and be like, all right, we're just messing with you. We're going to take all this now. Thanks. We just wanted to win it at home. It's okay.
Yeah, if they don't take game 3, look for a sweep.
Yeah,
I mean, literally,
absolutely.
The craziness is they've done all this without the Splash Brothers making a strong impact. This is crazy.
Dude.
You roll out with your B team and crush by 30?
Exactly. I mean,
Damn.
you remember Sean Livingston? Do you remember what?
No.
Do you remember what his career highlight was? It was his leg exploding as he went to slam dunk a basketball, and his leg went every which way but up and down. It just poof out to the sides. Leg just blew up. That was Sean Livingston's career highlight. Next thing you know, he's sitting there stroking dudes and just sitting there spinning every Cavalier defender around like they were a top. I mean, it's just unbelievable. The depth on this team and the ability for not this guy to score, not that guy to score, not that guy to score, but that guy over there. You're going 4th man on the list, and he's going to sit there and give you the points that you need to win a game. It's amazing how this team has been put together because it's not, with the Cavs, it's totally different. You got to get the ball to LeBron. LeBron's got to facilitate and create. Only LeBron can do it. Kyrie can't. Kevin Love has shown that he can't. After that, after those 3 guys, who else you got? Exactly. So it's just
Nice basketball to watch.
It's
Unbelievable.
It's 2 different teams. One is a team setting, and the Golden State Warriors are the better team. And that's why they're going to win the series. In the Fighting LeBrons just don't have a chance because everything is heaped upon LeBron James. Kyrie Irving can't get out of his own way, and Kevin Love, he's a head case right now. And it just seems like the moment gets a little bit too big for Kevin Love. And I love Kevin Love. I used to like watching him when he played for UCLA. Thought he was great. I felt bad for him when he got drafted by Minnesota. I always thought he was a much better talent than kind of what he was put in for. He just can't arise to the occasion. He can't take his game to that next level. You know, he's a guy who can get you to the finals, and he can't help you win it.
Now, I'm very fascinated to get your take and maybe revisit your idea regarding the Red Wings offseason. A lot of talk now about Steven Stamkos has been about this whole blood clot issue. Is his health going to be okay? Is it going to, preclude him from even going anywhere else and maybe might lead to him to stay in Tampa Bay? So a lot of, kind of sprinkles in terms of some negativity regarding his health has been out there in the last couple of weeks. So I'm curious to get your opinion. What is more likely? The Red Wings making a move to sign Steven Stamkos, take that risk, or signing KHL and former NHLer Alex Radulov?
I think Radulov will probably be signed before Stamkos does. And a lot of that has to do more with salary cap implications. Radulov right now wants a 2-year deal, somewhere in the neighborhood of $15 million, while Stamkos wants a 8-year, $80 million deal. So we're talking about a $10 million a year contract compared to a $7.5 million a year contract. The Wings are investigating possibly signing Radulov. If they can get it done, they'd like to do it for about a year, somewhere in the neighborhood of $4 million. He wants $7.5 million for 2. And I think in the end, it'll all get worked out. I think there'll be some give and take on both sides. Don't be surprised if it's 1 year for somewhere near 5.5, 5 3/4. And I think that'd be a solid signing. I think it'd be good. It would limit their any type of negative issue for them because there's some concerns about whether or not he is professional enough. Some of his off-ice demeanor is a little bit different. I don't think Steven Stamkos would be a great signing. Again, 50-goal scorer, right? A guy who's a superstar in this league. I just don't think the contract and the money that he wants, I don't know if Ken Holland's willing to do that again. He just got burned by a $7.5 million contract with Pavel Datsyuk. I'm anticipating that he's gone. He hasn't made it official yet, but I'm anticipating he's gone. There are rumors already circulating that the Wings are trying to shop that contract to a team that's looking to get to the basement of the NHL salary cap. So they will have some money to play with, and they could go sign Steven Stamkos. I would love it if they did, but I think signing Radulov would happen first. And if you look at what he does when he has played in the NHL, he played for Nashville 2006 to 2007 or 2006 to 2008, and then he came back in 2011-2012 season. The guy is effective. 81 games in 2007-2008, scored 58 points, had 26 goals, 32 assists. Following season, or 2011-2012, he had played in 9 games, had 7 points. So the guy can score. The guy can play. It's just whether or not there's going to be some give and take on his side and the Wing side. I just don't see Steven Stamkos the Wings being able to sign him because he wants a huge contract. And you've seen what long-term bad contracts do to this team. Not good.
Third and final question, very fascinating, hot button topic. This is the topic that will get all the listeners, keep them engaged. Talking Jim Harbaugh. All the reporters are swarming. All the reporters are getting in their vehicles, driving to the East Coast, wondering, ooh, what's Jimmy doing with his camp? And they're actually reporting that, hey, this is a guy that's running around with the kids, teaching, having a good old time. And it's not like the fluff show that they thought it was going to be. Jim is out there working, and he's out there starting this camps. You know, the satellite camps are in full swing. And it's been talked about that last year he said he was going to ramp it up. This is something he was going to do. From last year, he wanted to double the amount of camps, and he's out there working because of his obvious passion and will to want to cheat. You know, to help Michigan win.
His will to cheat.
See how I snuck that in there?
Yeah, I did.
Do you think that Jim Harbaugh has a point when he says, in response to comments from the media, and says that football gets the majority of the scrutiny and the rules that are intended to hurt the student athlete make no sense, and that he's pointing it out because he's looking at other sports like lacrosse and they're not getting the same kind of scrutiny. He's out there trying to defend football as a sport, which he views as being under attack. What say you on his comments about the satellite camps and, you know, the attack on football as a sport?
I absolutely believe he has a point, but here's the thing. Generally, in your college football, in your college setting with sports, college football is your largest income, your largest revenue sport. It is the one that is bringing in the most money. At least at Michigan and Michigan State it does. Brings in a ton of cash. And then basketball, men's basketball. So there is more scrutiny on college football players and college football athletes. And he's absolutely right. Because here's the thing. If Connor Cook, when he was at Michigan State, wanted to go and, say, work at a car dealership, this car dealership is owned by a booster at Michigan State, that would be a foul. There would be an issue there because he's receiving a paycheck. He's doing work, and he's working for whatever, for a living there. And, you know, I don't know about you, but when I was in college, I worked. I'm pretty sure you worked as well. You were allowed to do that. Neither of us were student athletes, though. Now, Connor Cook, sitting there working for this car dealership, doing whatever he's doing there, pulling in a paycheck, this now is looked upon as him receiving some type of illegal funds. So, yeah, there's a double standard there where you and I can go do things Connor Cook can't. And if you and I wanted to, say we were musically gifted, I could write songs and you could play an instrument and we could put together one hell of a band, right? We could sit there and we could go tour around East Lansing, go tour around Ann Arbor. We can go tour around Wayne State's campus in downtown Detroit if you want, performing and collecting a paycheck off of what we do. You're going to school to play, we'll say, a trumpet, and I'm going to school for musical composition, all right? But we can put our band together, we can go collect money for this, and we can go perform and do what we're going to school to do. College football players can't. Basketball players can't. Lacrosse players can. Hockey players can. All those guys can. I mean, do you realize that most NHL players who play in college or come from college are already signed to their NHL team? They're just finishing up their career in college. It's college football has a double standard with it. And what Jim Harbaugh is saying is absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And the thing is, the NCAA is at all of these satellite camps. And it just kind of seems like they're making the rules up as they go along again, because this started off with him and his group being able to sit there and conduct interviews and speak with the press and take some pictures and do this. And then all of a sudden it was like noon and they're like, oh, you can't do that. So now Jim's got to go and be like, look, guys, I can't take pictures with you. His son, Jay Harbaugh, was there. Jay, you can't talk to the media. I've got to be the one to do it. So now he has to step in and intervene. And it just, again, it seems like on the seat of their pants, the NCAA is just making rules up. And it just, to sit there and try to confine what Jim Harbaugh is doing, what the student athlete is doing, ways to sit there and basically funnel revenue through the NCAA. And that's a huge issue that needs to be looked at. And fans and people need to sit there and have their eyes wide open to this because it happens all the time.
Great round of Jock Jams. I'm very fascinated to see how this satellite camp thing will progress, because anytime you stick a microphone in front of Jim Harbaugh's face, he's going to market his agenda. And right now his agenda is to save football and to try to figure out a way to catch up to D'Antonio and Nick Saban. And I think he should run
Does
4
Harbaugh-
camps a day.
Does Harbaugh have a cape on as he's trying to save football? He's got a big old football on his chest.
Listen, it just shows. I don't know. I'm going to take maybe a not popular stance. I think he probably needs to do this in order to get good talent, because all the good talent's going to go to Ohio State and Michigan State teams that win. So he's got to have, recruitments and satellite camps probably every day for the month of June, July, August, until I think he probably should do them during the week too. Figure out a way to get him going, because he's going to have a tough second half of his schedule.
I can't wait for the college football season to happen. I can't, because I think Michigan is going to have a great season, and it probably will come down to that Michigan State game again.
Yeah. Meanwhile, my college is playing Fulmer or Fur or whatever. Their opening game schedule.
they're playing a pitcher for the Detroit Tigers.
They're playing Fuhrer or whatever college. Check out their first
They're
opening
playing an
game.
Arena Bowl team.
Yeah, we'll talk soon about what Michigan State's trying to do. They're trying to squeeze money out of the Doc's pocket. Uh-oh, the passion has eroded.
Oh yeah, we need to talk about maybe next week.
Yes.
We'll sit there. We'll work in that topic with Michigan State not sitting there, including the U of M game
Nice,
for
huh?
their season package. Yeah.
Hey, listen,
we'll talk about that next.
We'll talk
week.
about our thoughts
Yeah,
about
'cause
that.
I-
Money
you- 'cause
grab.
You're gonna go on for an hour about that, and I'm right there with you.
Money grab. All right, stay with us. Last time out, we'll come back. Got to talk a little Lions. We've neglected our Detroit football team for a minute here on the podcast. Can't wait. Can't go too long without talking about our Detroit Lions. Stay with us. Doc and Jock, episode 148. I want to tell everyone out there about DetroitSportsNation.com. They're a great website, and they've been very supportive to all the shows on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. They host all the podcasts. They have great writers that cover all the Detroit teams, all the college teams. Check out their website and support those who support us. DetroitSportsNation.com. The collaboration has been excellent, and it's helped us to continue to grow and have great guests take phone calls. So our collaboration with the Detroit Sports Nation has really been successful, and support those who support us. DetroitSportsNation.com.
Welcome back to the longest running episodic Detroit sports podcast. It's the Doc and Jock Show, episode 148. And like the Doc told you, we can't go too long without talking about our Motor City Kitties, the Lions. Apparently, there was some hubbub on Monday evening as the Doc was tweeting out random questions and struck a fury with some Lions fans. So
Listen,
what happened on Monday?
A lot of people are calling it cheap, easy button. But I actually was very happy to bring up the Lions because we were recording the Motor City Sports Rant podcast, which comes out every Tuesday on our network. And inevitably, whenever you talk about the Lions, you got to talk about Matthew Stafford, the guy. And I wanted to know, and I think people took it maybe in the tone in which I typed it, but all I asked was on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast, if you support Matthew Stafford, tell me why. And I think maybe the way it came out, people took it as that I'm someone that doesn't. Maybe we have now a lot of listeners that know my stance. And so they hear our interviews with the great insiders with the Lions, and they know that I'm a guy that when we talk about Stafford, show me. It's been 9 years now. We're going to have the same talk that we had last offseason. When's he going to win? When's he going to pass the final exam? And we talked all about Stafford, and I said, hey, tell me why you support him. Instantly, within 15 seconds, 20 seconds, a lot of people were like, this is a stupid question. This is a guy and blah, 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 blah. So all I did was post the
Best
supporters.
quarterback we've ever had.
Best quarterback we've ever had. The numbers, the stats, the fact that, and the excuses came out. The fact that he doesn't have a line. He's been sacked 90 times. There's no running game. Every excuse in the book. And you look at situations like Andrew Luck. He hasn't had a dominant offensive line. Last year was a year where he struggled with a weakened line, and he didn't get to the postseason. But
He's on the verge of becoming David Carr.
exactly. So you got
Just PTS all day long.
you got situations where other quarterbacks have had success with less than stellar lines. Why all the excuses? It's because everybody, when you talk about Stafford, you really recognize, okay, this is the best that we've ever had. This is somebody that can be successful. All I'm saying is, and the analogy that I used was, and it was perfect, Matthew Stafford is a guy that's a great student. He's a guy that shows up to all the classes, does his homework, but when it comes down to take the final, gets an F. what kind of final exam grade do you earn when you fail all the tests but are a great student, model citizen? You still get an F. You don't get to go, oh, well, hey, I showed up every time. I get a participation trophy. No, you in the stuff that you get evaluated on, winning in the postseason, winning big, huge games when they matter, haven't done it. And all I'm saying is, tell me why you support it. And I lit off a firestorm. And whenever you talk about Stafford, most polarizing guy in town. And it was nice to at least peek into the Lions fans and what they were thinking. And still a lot of support for number 9. Hasn't eroded yet. Very polarizing figure.
How do you feel about Gil Brandt of the NFL media senior analyst?
He's had takes that have been questionable recently, and
Let me give you
I used to have a lot of respect for him.
Yeah.
And then recently with some of his takes, I go, maybe you're a little older, dude.
So he was talking about, in some article, he was talking about building the perfect NFL quarterback. And in it, he cited Matthew Stafford. And he draws a comparison. And I just kind of want to get your take, especially since you're over here basically crippling Matt Stafford. So he said the arm of Matt Stafford, arm strength, is not something you draft for because other elements of the quarterback play discussed here are so much more significant. But as long as we're dreaming about the perfect quarterback, let's give our guy the rifle of Stafford. If you're looking for the player who has the strongest arm and can throw the ball the farthest, the Lions signal caller is who you'll be looking for. He could combine that arm with some touch. He'd be tough to beat. Classic example, Captain Horseface himself, John Elway. So that's right. That's right. So basically, Matt Stafford.
Gil, flush that take down the
Matt
toilet.
Matt Stafford is John Elway, is what Gil Brandt is saying. That's what I'm taking out of this. So how do you feel about that? Smoking crack, huh?
Yeah, Gil Brandt, the guy back in the day, was a very strong, prominent figure in the NFL. Now he's just a talking head, and that take I will toss aside. Listen, I didn't say that Matthew Stafford's not worthy of being the quarterback. I just think it's time to potentially start looking for replacements just to motivate him a little bit more. Guy's on easy street. He's the starting quarterback. They've built a system around him. They've added pieces. They've tried everything possible, and they're just not willing to say that this is the guy that we maybe need to kind of brush aside and say, let's move on from him. They are not willing to do that. He's got the support of the organization. He's a model citizen. It's just, when you look at the bottom line, I need wins. I am the guy that says, give me wins. And Jason went on a limb, we got it on tape. He's predicting a playoff win this year.
What?
That's what I'm saying.
This is bad.
That is bad.
Playoff win?
What are you talking about, Jason?
I'm getting ridiculed for 10 wins.
Well, here, what about this? Since Jim Bob Cooter has taken over, Matt Stafford's basically total QBR and just overall quarterback play has improved dramatically towards the later half of the season last year. And again, take into account who they were playing because these were subpar teams, to say the least. He basically went on a 19-2 run, touchdown per interception ratio, which is great. His overall quarterback ranking went up about 50 points per game, or in every game over the course of that I think it was like 8 or 9 games that Jim Bob had there. So Jim Bob Cooter and Matt Stafford seem to have some type of melding of the minds, and there's now this new offensive system that is going in down in Allen Park. And a lot of the players have been talking about it. They're all very excited about it. Do you think that Jim Bob Cooter is going to have a dramatic effect on Matt Stafford? And basically what we've seen out of those last 8 games or so is what we're going to get out of Matt Stafford now, a guy who can sit there and basically do a 19-2 touchdown to interception ratio, better command of the football, being able to sit there and make the smart, accurate play. Coming out of last year, it was his most accurate season that he's had as a quarterback. And that's something that we haven't been able to say about this guy.
Absolutely, Jim Bob Cooter is going to have an influence. And so will Jim Caldwell, in the fact that they're going to rein him in and they're going to ultra conservative. This offense is going to be so conservative. Listen, who are you going to throw the ball deep to? Curley, Golden Tate? Golden Tate's specialty is not going down 20 yards and catching the ball.
Marvin Jones, bro.
Marvin Jones. Maybe he'll get open, but it's going to be the first time that he's going to be on his own and not used as a secondary role. It might be looked at as a number one. Is he going to be able to break free of those coverages when he gets the primary attention? I'm fascinated to see. He might be able to catch some of those balls, but if the offensive line doesn't hold up, you got to have a lot of things in place to successfully complete a deep pass. I don't say they do it quite a bit. I would say in the first 5 or 6 games, you might not get 5 deep passes. I say Marvin Jones could be used as a decoy, and Golden Tate gets a lot of the yards, because I see this offense just being a 10 to 20 yard offense. Give Golden Tate the ball in the slot, let him do his damage alongside a stronger running game. I say that this offense is going to be tailored to Stafford and rein him in just a little bit. They don't need him to be a gunslinger. Look what they did in the last 8 games. He wasn't that much of a gunslinger. I say you rein him in, and he's going to be successful. What I'm saying is, I want to go right to the final exam. I know what he brings to the table. Strong arm, smart quarterback, gritty, all that good stuff. Crunch time, fourth quarter, in a game versus Chicago on the road, cold weather. You need this game. You have to have this game to get into the postseason. Go out there, win the game. That's what I want to see. Everything else is just further rehashing of everything we've already said. Show me when it's the final exam time. I want to see, because now he's got one win on the road versus a winning organization. Woohoo for you. Show me at final exam time. You can do it. I'll be happy. I'll stop, call off the dogs in terms of my request for someone else. That's all. He deserves this level of criticism. And he also deserves the praise that we got on Twitter. And it was a justified question. One guy said that the question I asked wasn't even justified. I said, I'm not a journalist. I'm not trying to clickbait anybody. I just wanted to know, seriously, if you support Stafford, why? And all the reasons came through. And he got a lot of support.
Speaking of this revamped offense, a guy like TJ Jones is expected to have a larger role in it. Eric Ebron supposed to have a larger role in it. I think at this point he's one of like 1.5 healthy tight ends, because all of our tight ends are on IR. You expect these two players to sit there and benefit from this new offense, from the play of a guy like Matthew Stafford. Now that Kelvin Johnson isn't there, Matthew Stafford has to sit there and take over more of a leadership role and really has to kind of control what's going on out there, and he loses a security blanket.
I'm really surprised that whole Amir Abdullah story kind of came out really late with that shoulder surgery. He's going to be expected to be there.
That's the new Bob Quinn.
Yeah.
Keep
everything hush-hush.
Yeah.
But Pettigrew is going to be missing some time with that ACL situation. I do believe that TJ Jones, Amir Abdullah, Eric Ebron are going to be significantly better in this offense. Why would you say right now that they wouldn't? Ebron is the biggest factor in terms of, a guy that's been inconsistent, but he should take that next step. Just look at his stats. He progressed. Now, is he at the level of meeting expectation that we have? Probably not, but he was serviceable last year. Got some yards, got a significant increase in catches, and he just needs to make that key play as well. Amir Abdullah, going to have to shore up those fumble problems, and TJ Jones should factor into the offense a little bit more. But he's going to have to compete, because now they signed Curley, they signed Stephen Ridley, so there's a lot more guys out there who are going to want the ball spread around. So TJ Jones is going to have to distinguish himself rather quickly, otherwise he'll get lost in the mix. They got 3 receivers already. TJ Jones, I think now, is the guy who's the odd man out, but if he comes in there in preseason and wows everybody, he's got youth on his side, and he made some plays last year. I don't give him no chance. It's just right now he's behind the 8 ball in terms of the depth chart. He's got to get through Curley, who has experience, Golden Tate and Jones, who are going to be the lead dogs. I give him credit. I do believe that the Lions did succeed at one thing this offseason: get more guys depth. Get more depth guys in the organization to promote competition. So even though these guys might not make it, you improve the guys you already have. So by that standard, I'm very impressed with what they did in the offseason. They still could do more. Remember, Bob Quinn has the benefit of year 1. This is year 1's class. Year 2 class, year 3, year 4. Now we can start evaluating what the hell's going on here.
Do you realize that Eric Ebron was a top 20 tight end in the league last year?
I don't want to realize that. I just want to make fun of him.
Okay, but I'm trying to make a point here. All right, so he was a top 20 tight end, and you say that you expect him to be much better next season. That being said, a guy who I like to point to is a guy like Benjamin Watson, played for New Orleans Saints, had a couple really big games, but otherwise was just kind of mediocre. Ben Watson was a top 7 tight end in the league. So when I was sitting there thinking this, how I want to formulate this question, Ben Watson was the first guy I went to. Do you see Eric Ebron basically being like Ben Watson was last year? Ben Watson had 74 receptions, 825 yards, had 6 touchdowns, a couple big plays here and there. But otherwise, really and truly, he had like 3 really big games, and that was about it. Otherwise, he's just kind of steady. He's just kind of there, just doing his thing. Do you see that for Eric Ebron, or do you see maybe a little bit more of a ceiling where he will explode for more plays down the field and get a few more touchdowns?
I believe, yeah. I think the realistic expectations are around 75 to 80 catches, 1,000 yards, and 8 touchdowns. I'd be happy with those numbers. So get around Ben Watson level. That's a good marker. I'll definitely put that on a poll on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast. See, where do you think our followers will rank it? You think they'll rank that he'll get higher than that those stats for Watson, or lower? What do you think they'll say?
Probably lower. You got to realize Eric Ebron's fighting an uphill battle.
PR nightmare.
Yes, everybody
and every time he's on social media, he's retweeting Pro Football Focus, who called him a bust.
He's his own worst enemy.
He's out there. He responds. Actually, I give him credit for actually putting himself out there and addressing it. He knows he's being called a bust. He knows it. It's just, I think the attitude with which he's taking it is a little bit off-putting, in that he's like, kind of saying that it's not justified. I just need a little bit more reconciliation in the fact that you've had some plays that you need back, and you've made some mistakes. So come show me. If you take that attitude of, hey, I'm the man and I can do it, come show me. It'll be great for the Lions. As long as it's great for the Lions, I'll take whatever attitude you bring, and as long as you don't drop the ball and help this offense do something this year. With that schedule, help this team. Everybody on that squad has to be a contributor and not a detriment. So far, so good. I think that going into this offseason, I'm a lot more happy and calm than I have been, and I think it's fair to start off at 8-8, like we talked about at the gathering. 8-8 is a very fair place to start with a 2-game swing either way, and then that's where the luck factor will come in. And I can't wait for football to start all around, man. It's great. We're getting ever so close. More storylines, more things to observe, and hopefully now we got to just knock on wood that some of the contributors that we need to do their damage don't get hurt. That's all we got to ask for.
Before we get out of here, I want to know where you sit with Kyle Van Noy. There was this great article that came out and talked about how he's basically reconditioned himself. He looks like a totally different person, and he's supposed to make an impact this season. Do you see that happening? Because recent memory serves me right. Kyle Van Noy looks like a complete bust right now. Has trouble getting on the field. He can't sit there and help out in pass coverage on defense. He basically is an attack the ball kind of player. If that's what he's going to be, he can't be a linebacker for this team. He'd have to be a D end.
And look at what they did. What's the last move they made? They signed an Alabama linebacker. Doesn't that show you a little bit of where he stands in terms of the depth chart? Another linebacker, Kyle Van Noy. Of course, he's improved, but in terms of what we've seen on film, he just has to show more. He's got to be more productive. A guy that can be on the field, not only in nickel packages, but day to day in the grind. And listen, I don't harp on it too much, because when Ray Lewis described what the linebackers got to do, that job is not easy. So I don't blame him for struggling. You got to, first of all, understand numerous offenses. You got to understand numerous shifts. When the play comes, you got to be able to read and react, and then go out there and adjust to what you're seeing. You know how hard that is to be able to read a coverage and then also try to read through some of the decoys that the offenses are doing. Ray Lewis had a situation where he's like, listen, I might have made it look easy, but playing linebacker is no joke. You got to be basically the PhD of the defense and understand what the offense is doing, and then go out there and react to it. And I think his biggest adjustment will be once he becomes comfortable with reading offenses, and then he can just react. I just think he thinks too much, and he just doesn't have a full grasp of what he's doing. So right now, that's why they're not going with him too much. He's got to be a much more proficient linebacker, and it takes time. That's a position that sometimes you just got to be, as well as tight end, be a little bit patient, and I'll be fascinated to see what he does this year.
This will be his third year in the league. Generally, if you're a linebacker and you're a good linebacker and you're worth a damn, generally by year 3, that's when you make your greatest leap. You see the most improvement in their play. So I'm expecting, if he's coming into camp and everybody's saying he's as good as he looks right now, I'm expecting big things for Kyle Van Noy. He's got to show it, though. He's got to show it on the field. He's got to show it on the practice field. He's got to show it in the classroom when they're sitting there studying. And you're absolutely right. The linebacker has to basically know every single position and what everybody is doing on that offense
and then react
at all times.
Fast.
Exactly. Like in a split second, just like that. You got to be there. So
you realize if you read run and it's a pass, you're gonna result in big play, and you look stupid. And then
there's 10 to 20 yards down the field.
You believe some linebackers are required to cover tight ends and receivers?
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, how? And great quarterbacks recognize it within an instant which person the linebacker is covering, and they go to him.
Yep.
It's a tough gig, and the best ones are able to break up plays, and it's fascinating to think a linebacker has to cover guys going out in the backfield, man. It's crazy, huh?
I think when we sit there and we do our breakdown of the Lions season, we'll talk about what we kind of look for when we're building. If we were to build our own football team, We can do it for defense. We can do it for offense. Because when you're sitting there and you're trying to look for a prototypical linebacker, you basically want an all-around athlete. You just want a guy who's a total freak out there. You don't need him to be the biggest. You don't need him to necessarily be the strongest, but you do need him to be quick. You need him to be powerful, and you need him to be explosive. Because, like you said, he's got to cover some of the fastest guys on the team with the receivers. You got to cover some of the biggest and strongest guys on the team with the tight ends. And you got to be you have to have multiple skill sets if you are a linebacker.
All right, let's get out of here. Great 90 minutes strong talking Detroit sports and some unfortunate news in the world of sports. Definitely, it's being talked about much more, athletes and their criminal activities. We hope as time passes that we talk less about stories that are as devastating as what we opened with. For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Thank you for everyone's support. Thank you for hitting the download button. We'll be back definitely next Thursday on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Go Tigres.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I have voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me.